Clary is actually, for once, in a very happy place, which we don't see much on the show, when she's completely kind of in a really, really lovely, happy relationship. And her relationship with Simon, and then with Jace, things have kind of settled down. They've become friends and siblings and been able to deal with that whole twist of a relationship. Valentine is in custody, everything seems great, but then you find out that they're actually not siblings. But Jace knows and Clary doesn't. So it's the whole peril of, will he tell her? How's she gonna take it? Will he keep it from her? Would that be worse? And then also, Jace and Simon have gotten closer too, and Jace knows how happy Simon makes Clary. And so he doesn't want to get in the way of Clary's happiness or step on Simon's toes or ruin anything that they all have together. But Jace still feels the same way about Clary that he always has, and Clary still has feelings for Jace in a way. So there's that triangle there that has come back into play in full force, and that weighs heavily on all of their relationships in 2B. Jace and Clary's angelic abilities express themselves in different ways. We've seen Clary create new runes, and these runes are, incredibly powerful and have never been seen before by any Shadowhunter. They've never been used. They come directly sort of from the angel and, well, from Ethereal, but from different angels or different forces directly to Clary, and she's able to draw them and use them when she connects in a certain way. And similarly, Jace is now able to activate his runes without a stele and have sort of this advanced agility and this advanced kind of strength and physical prowess that a lot of the other Shadowhunters don't possess. So it becomes very interesting how we see their powers express themselves. Because of the devastation that the Soul Sword caused when it was activated, even though it was only activated briefly and it was all contained within the Institute, we lost a good number of Downworlders. And a lot of the Downworlders will blame Jace, will blame Clary, will blame the Shadowhunters as a whole for that happening. And even though Clary has deactivated the sword, it's still a bit fuzzy as to what that means and, the possession of the sword and how that affects everything. But through that, it creates this immense pressure on the world because there's this divisiveness, if you will, and this sort of this energy in the air and this spark that things are about to explode. And if anything tips, if anything shifts, if anything, it's like a ticking time bomb in a sense, that there is going to be a confrontation. And it's about having to diffuse that and try and control what information gets out there.
The guilt is kind of paramount to none. Like it's really the worst he's ever felt. And, he has this tremendous responsibility, superfluous of the fact that he knows and understands that Valentine was contorting his mind and his decisions and his morality. He understands that, but he was still the one who put his hand on the sword. He activated it. It was his plan, and his plan went wrong. And he was responsible for those deaths, and that is something that really doesn't go away. Like, we're only on episode 16, and that hasn't gone anywhere yet. That guilt is always there. And almost driving him to make the right decisions and fix things. We do go through some real trials and tribulations with these three. They have obstacles put in their way, both Simon and Clary as a couple, and Clary and Jace as, superfluous of how it looks on screen. They do love each other, and that is an underlying factor, and Clary and Kat have made and Simon, and they have made their allegiances very clear, and to the point of Jace is kind of pushed to one side, and that's I think is almost like a dishonest portrayal, because there are these feelings, and we know there are these feelings, and we find out that there are these feelings and sensations, but it's not easy. And what I like about it is, interestingly, it doesn't really change the dynamic between Simon and Jace, which I like, because they don't blame each other. They don't think it's each other's fault. They know that they're kind of caught in the middle of this whole situation, but nothing changes between the two of them, which I like. I do like that.
We've all felt very blessed that every person that kind of comes onto the show, whether it be like a guest star or a bigger role or someone, even like background, like the people we've all had on set that come to work with us are all people that just kind of fit our vibe. And Will perfectly fits our vibe. He's super cool, down to earth, smart, fun, very talented actor. And he's a great addition to the team.
So things are going pretty well. He's got his sister out of her situation with the infant, so he's working now towards solving that. He's got he's told the person he loves that he loves them, and he's got Valentine captured and stuck in his basement of the Institute. Things are looking up Alec, but we know that things are going to go very poorly, obviously, because it's Shadowhunters, and that's how things go. The position he has felt, I guess, in the past that he was born to take over, but I think that, I wonder if Alec's heart is really in it, because I think that Alec is a great leader, but I think that there's a lot of, at the moment, there's a lot of other things that are going on with Valentine that maybe his time would be better spent in a less authoritarian role. And I think that becomes an issue for him, sort of looking at himself, am I good at this? Is this really where I should be right now, or should I be sort of helping Jace and Clary and Izzy on their missions and being more involved in that?
So Izzy is the first character to meet Sebastian. It's very interesting because they bond in a very unique way. You can kind of say that Sebastian's gone through what Isabel just went through or is going through. So he kind of helps her get out of this drug addiction, and that makes her really trust him, and she's the one who brings him into the Institute and presents him to everyone.
He's just trying to get everyone to play nice with each other and just to listen. I think he's sympathetic and understanding to both sides, and knowing their intentions are all good, right? They want to achieve the same thing, but just a different way of doing it. And I think that is the big issue with, and Magnus, I think, is taking this in place where he knows that war is inevitable and war is going to happen. Now I think he's caught in between the two, because usually he just avoids it and obviously fights for the Downworlders, which he is still doing, but now he also has an interest that's beyond just protecting his people. It brings back memories that he's shut out of his life and he's dealt with for so long already, and I think just finally it's starting to, he kind of put it away, or at least found peace with it, right? And found that was a part of him, but it's not going to affect his judgment and going to affect his life anymore. And that just resurfaces, and for him, it's brutal. It really put him in a bad place. And
I feel like what Luke does is he takes on, he looks at each member of this family there, and he says, like, how is he grieving? How is he hurting? How is she hurting? And he kind of personalizes it and tries to give them a life lesson, which is sometimes well received, and other times it's like, enough, thanks, Dad, but no thanks. I think the interaction with Valentine's always great. That's always a fun thing. I wish there was more of it, but what we do have is rich and full of life and possibly full of death.
In 2B, we got to really explore some new sets and expand the world even more, especially vis-a-vis the Institute. We've seen those big, beautiful spaces and the office occupied by Aldertree, et cetera, and now we get to see the sub-basement, which is modeled after St. Paul's in London. If you go to St. Paul's or any major cathedral, they have the sub-basements with crypts, et cetera, and they've basically taken, those crypts exist in this same church at the Institute, and they've fashioned cells, kind of like Westworld-type cells, into the basement. So we see taking a nod from Hannibal Lecter and Westworld, and putting our friend Valentine, depends on whose side you're on, into that environment. So we really get to see when they capture people, what do they do? Secondarily, we get to go to the Sealy Glade, which was just amazing for us. We love to explore the fantastical, because the show, although rooted in New York City and feels very grounded, and if you watch the show, after a while you say to yourself, well, they still are finding demons and angels, right? All of the great relationship stuff is there, but we really want to explore the realms with great honor and respect to the books as best we can on our show.